Hey guys, it's me again, Orc Slayer. What else? Where we last left off? Let's see. Checking. Drink of the day, Sprite. So, Deku's built a gang, not on purpose. They sort of just gravitated towards him once he had proved his strength to them. Deku has somewhat formed a very small friendship for now with Habuko. I think that's her name. Where's my dang book? There it is. With I can't read that. Habuko, yeah. My handwriting is atrocious. Yep. But anyways, he's gotten a form of friendship with her. I think her name's Habuko Mongoose or something like that. So to continue on, Deku's essentially just walking around as he's just like, as he and Gang Orca have arrived at the orphanage, if you guys remember. But Deku's like earlier life has been found out about how he mauled a couple of kids, but his story was never got out there. So some of them who are brave enough to ask the questions of why he did it, he explains and actually has a necklace to show proof. So it's slowly but sure like starting to go away little by little, but people are still quite terrified of him because they think he's like this gang leader with the delinquents, when in fact he's actually on numerous occasions had to try and set them straight. Because Deku's like, this is how they're going to end up out on the streets, becoming thugs, villains, and criminals. So misguided. As he actually takes note of a few of them, and a few of them got pretty good quirks. Flashy, some of them not so, but they're strong, they're pretty decent quirks. And even those that aren't good, quote unquote, he says there's a lot of room for them to improve. He even talks about how he thinks one of the guys, what was his, as he's trying to remember his name, but they never really told him their names. He's just had to listen to conversation, so he thinks the guy's name is like he's like, what was it? Started with a K, didn't it? He's like, Calvin? Kevin? And I use English names, let's just go for that, because Japanese names, not good. So I'm just going to say Kevin and stuff like that, alright? He's like, this guy named Kevin, what was it? He could... Oh, wait, yeah, that was it. He's like, yeah, Kevin has some form of, decent telekinesis quirk, if I remember. But he uses it to, like, bully around the other students. He's like, it could be actually probably be more powerful if he just trained it a bit, but the kid doesn't train at all. Even then, he'd probably rely too heavily on it. So he's like, there's room improvement for him. There's another one he calls that everyone's just like, he's like, so what's that guy name? He's like, oh, we don't know. We just call him Bane. Yes, that Bane. As he describes him as being a very intelligent kid, but he's just, and his quirk is something they call venom, as I believe that's what Bane takes. And he's like, it's like another form of adrenaline, but it's even greater. It's strong stuff, as he like, that thing would be useful. He just needs to learn, he just needs a way to help focus it. As he's just keep on thinking of things, as he thinks there's quite a few, let's just say there's a lot of villains from Batman's universe. Let's say there's quite a few of them, and that he's pretty much just, and he's trying to oversee them all. He's like, there's like a weird bat kid, man bat person. And he's like, what was that other one's name? He's like, such a weird one, he's gray, but he sounds so weird. He's like a Grundy or something like that. He's like, yeah, I think Grundy is the name. But then again, I might be wrong. As he just goes through the line, he's like, all these guys make pretty good heroes. They just gotta get on the right track. He's like, and I'll have to beat the sense into him if that's what it takes. As we cut back to Deku and Gang Orca, as they're like, so we're here for the kids. As Gang Orca is like, oh, it's so great to see you, and it's good for you to bring your sidekick. It's like, son. As he just answers with son to make it like, not to get any details like adopted son or anything like that. And Deku just goes along with it. Because as far as he knows, almost spelled that. As far as he knows, Gang Orca and the rest of the gang, like Luna, Looney, Jackster, and Sludge are like the only people who you consider family at this point. So it's like, oh, I didn't know you had a son. He's like, yeah, he's adopted. It's like, oh, well, good for you. He's like, your father's a very good man. As he's like, no doubt, I've been with him for a little while too, to observe him. She's like, oh, well, that's good. Well, the kids are this way. They'll be really excited to meet you, Mr. Orca. He's like, thank you. Go on, Izuku. We must see the children. As he's also trying to see if he can get Deku to be more see how Deku does around kids, because a lot of Gang Orca is actually, he really does like kids. Like if you guys saw where he had to teach remedial classes, it was President Mike did an overthing where he's like, he really does like want the kids to be better and tries to encourage them and all that, but he puts on this really tough exterior, like a gang leader. As Deku's like, man, this guy. He's like, he's the last person I would suspect being at an orphanage. But I guess it's a good thing. As he cracks his neck, he's like, alright, let's see what these little kids want. Swear to God, if any of them ask me, I swear. If there's any of these kids being bullies, I'm gonna flick them. As they go in and like all the kids cheer for Gang Orca, as then Deku shows up behind him. Is like, oh cool, he brought sidekicks. As Deku's like, wait, what? As immediately the two of them get swarmed. As Deku's just like, there's so many of them. It's like, yes, this is what it is, my son. As he's like, this is what it is, Deku. We got it. Sorry, I yawn. Why am I tired? I'm not. It's like, this is what it is, Deku. We help these kids bring a light to their life. And hopefully by our example, they'll be set on the right path. Deku's like, I could use this with Grundy and the rest of them. They're all really talented. They all got good futures ahead of them. So he just nods his head. He's like, alright, thanks, Orca. It's like, no problem, Deku. As then their attentions are turned back to a kid, as Deku and Gang Orca are pulled apart and dragged to separate ends of pretty much the orphanage. Gang Orca's around the adults, and he actually talks with a couple of the caretakers. Deku's like, I've been in an orphanage a long time. This ain't the one I went to, but it might have been one of the ones we visited. But he doesn't think so, because he didn't recognize the caretakers or any of the children. So he's like, alright. As he's pretty much dragged off by like the younger ones. Like, let's say the boys wanted to be around Gang Orca, and the girls wanted to like steal Deku away because they thought he looked kind of, scary. So what they're gonna do is give him a makeover. As they're like, oh, okay, it's time for a makeover. Deku's like, wait, what? As then they like get out a bunch of makeup. Deku's like, no, must run. But as he goes to like pull up, it's like, where are you going? Are you leaving already? As they all like seem really sad that he's gonna leave, he's just like, I hate this. And Gang Orca is like having a bit of fun. Like the boys are trying to push him and such, being roughhousing a bit. Deku's just like, help me, Gang Orca, father, where are you? As he goes on through this, as the girls are like making him pretty, as a couple of them get like little tiaras that he have and place it on his head. A couple of them put bracelet around his fingers since his wrists are too thick. As they do this little by little. Also, with the gameplay, real quick, a quick little break. With the gameplay, it seems like they might have updated it, so they upgraded some of the things around it. I'm pretty sure that's what they did, and I actually gotta say I kind of like it, but I'm gonna have to go back and see, because it seems like they've taken some of the abilities I used to use away. So that's why you see me in the beginning like messing around, trying to get like all the abilities I could have back on there. But I think they took my orbital strikeaway. That saddens me greatly. I am so sad about that, man. I love that ability. It was so useful taking care of like groups of ads. Oh well. But as eventually after like an hour or so, like an hour or two of like being left alone, Young is like, hang on a second. As the caretakers are like, what? Where's Deku? Where's my son? As the girl is dragged. Oh no! As they're all freaking out, it's like, wait, what's happening? Deku's there as he's now like playing with the girls, like holding them up as like, I'm the fairest in the land. As Deku's just like, this is my life now, a glorified tower for these children. It ain't all that bad though. Smiles on their faces is something I'm willing to pay this humiliation for. As Deku's there, as eventually Gang Orca bursts through the door, as they're like, Deku! As he's looking around, as he sees him covered head to toe with bracelets, little stickers are all over him. Like they've been going crazy with those stickers. Deku's got 2 tiaras, he's got a tiara on his head that's crooked. He's got bracelets over his fingers and makeup on him. They even like smeared like a bit of makeup on him as Deku's just like, as Gang Orca slowly but surely, keeping eye contact with Deku, reaches into his pocket and then takes a picture of Deku after he pulls out his phone, as Deku's just like, this humiliation will live on for ages. As Deku's just like, hey girl, as he gets an evil smile, he's like, oh, you're on, old man. He's like, hey girls. They look at him like, yes, Princess Croc. He's like, oh, I'm not gonna get you. I don't like that name, but it works for now. He's like, Queen Croc, as he's like, yes, that evildoer over there. As he points at his father, he looks quite not as good as I do. Do you think? As all they're like, yeah, he could use more sparkles and lipstick. As Gang Orca is like, oh no. He's like, yeah. So don't you think you should pretty him up? Makeover time, you know? And so like, yeah, as they like all like go like walking over to him, as they had all slowly started to approach near Gang Orca, as Deku's like, yes, feel the wrath of my army, the army of the princesses. As he's like, Deku, no. He's like, Deku, yes. As they pretty much start like, as Gang Orca's like, his weakness comes forth, so he like gets down on the ground as they start giving him a makeover. As Deku is laughing to himself, he's like, old man, you think you're the only one who can play at this game? Excuse me. Very sorry. But as they're doing this, the boys are kind of upset because they're like, oh man, you're making them like not cool anymore. As this starts a little bickering fight between the boys and girls, as Deku's like, how can we get this? As he claps his hand together, he's like, Gang Orca, I got an idea. As he claps his hand together, alright kids, are you ready for this very special show? As like, what special show? As the caretakers are like, what are they talking about? And they're like, oh, just a very, very special show we had for you guys. As Deku, like, and all of them, like, have him escort outside, as the kids are in the shade looking around, they're like, what's gonna happen? As Deku and Gang Orca are pretty much improvising this, Deku's like, as the caretakers listen to their plan and they scramble to get what they could, but in the end they set up like a tiny little wrestling ring, like WWE. As the caretakers are playing along and they actually introduce them like in WWE style, it's like, in this corner we got as we have Gang Orca, the fearless queen of the king, as they'll put, the king of the Orcas in the deep blue sea beyond yonder. And his rival today is the most beautiful, as the caretakers are doing this, as the girls like, as boys are for Gang Orca, girls are for Deku, since they got their separate times with them. Deku, it's the most beautiful croc ever, killer queen croc, as Deku's like, as he enters the stage and like what they would try to symbolize as a dress, as they got like a couple of curtains and wrapped them around him to act like a gown. As Deku's like, my beautiful subjects, I will win this victory for you. As the boys are like, kick his butt, King Orca. Yeah, you got this, King Orca. And he's like, ready, set, fight. As Deku and King Orca sort of play fight. As they make it seem like a bit real, as like WWE is. As they do like fake dives on one another, headbutts, chokeholds, all that good stuff. As they're playing around, as it's like, who will win? Find out next time. Next time they show up. All right, guys, that's it. The Queen Croc and King Orca have to go now. So all the kids are upset, but they're like, man, we can't wait to see who wins next time. It's gonna be so cool. As Deku and King Orca are leaving, Deku's like smearing all the stuff off him. He's like wiping off with like a hot rag. He's like, Jesus. He's like, I thought you were a Christian. He's like, I am. I didn't say Christ. As he's just wiping it all off, he's just throwing it off him. As he's just like, hell. As he's like having to pick off the stickers off him. He's like, what are you gonna do with the stickers? He's like, what else? But I don't know. What else would I do with them? It's like, keep them. Keep them as mementos. Not everyone in this world sees you as a monster. Little by little. He's like, as he's like, I don't even have a bag. He's like, here you go. As he's like, where did you get that? He's like, oh, as soon as I saw those on you, I asked the caretakers to get a plastic bag. Deku says, okay. Was not expecting this, but I'll deal with it. He's like, yes, you will. Well, that roughhousing kind of got me tired. Let's head home for a bit, take a nap, and then we'll roll on out to the town. Go have something to eat, something or other. Deku says, that's great. So as they go back and just relax for a little while, Deku gets a phone call. He's like, As like, hey boss, and so she's like, oh Christ. He's like, all right, who is this? As he like looks through, he's like, who is this? It's like, boss. It's just like, yes, who is this? It's Kevin. It's like, the one with telekinesis. Yeah, that's me, boss. He's just like, all right, what are you calling me for, Kevin? I was supposed to have a nice family day. What is it? As he doesn't want to seem irritated. He's just a bit tired. But to them, it comes off as he is peeved off. Like he's ready to kill somebody. Not kill somebody, but ready to get after somebody. It's like, one of the local gangs, as the kids like shouting, shudder. But as soon as Deku heard local gang, he sat up. He's like, Kevin, speak to me. As he's on speakerphone, and there's like a few of the other kids that live in the same neighborhood. There's a gang going around causing trouble. The heroes won't do anything about it. It's because they're children. They're from another school. But he's like, they stole some things from the younger ones around in our neighborhood. We were wondering if you could help. Deku's just like, as Gang Orca is coming down, he's like, hey kid, we're ready to go. What are you doing? He's like, gotta do something, Pops. It's like, man, how much trouble would I get into if I went to help solve the little issue around the neighborhood? She's like, are they villains? He's like, are they villains? She's like, no, the heroes won't acknowledge them as such until they do something serious, as they put it. It's like, nothing yet. He's like, is it all between kids? He's like, all between kids? He's like, yeah, no adults. Yep, everything's between kids. He's like, where do they live? As he's like, oh, he's like, bad part of town. As he's like, can't drive there, Deku. You probably know that, but some villains know some people know how my car looks. So, you know what, go deal with the thing you gotta do and be back here before we have to leave, alright? He's like, thanks, Pops. And he's like, yeah, no problem, kid. As he's calling him Pops to mask who he actually is to the Kevin in them. As I will say that there is 20 delinquents under Deku's command, quote unquote. I've named off a few of them, which there are gonna be some Batman-based villains. Then I'm also gonna like make some OCs, let's say, as that's how I typically do it with like some of these characters. Is that I'll make original characters, and if they add something to the story, a lot of times they don't. They're more or less just there for context and like show Deku isn't completely by himself without having to try and rip other characters to him. Because I feel like that's not a really good idea in a lot of cases. As Deku's like, alright, on my way, just hang tight. As he goes upstairs, he's like, you are not wearing your nice clothes, right? He's like, nope. Deku goes up, grabs a tough looking jacket not with gloves, but with a long sleeve shirt. He's like, okay. He gets boots, like heavy duty boots, let's say, like a biker boot, and jeans, like very, very big jeans. As he's just like, as his little jacket has a hood to it, so he like uses it to help cover his face. He's just like, he's like, walking out, it's like, dang, it's bright. As he grabs his sunglasses too, as he's like, try to look inconspicuous. I really hope it works. As he's walking down the street, people are getting out of his way. As he gets on the train station, he's just like, as he starts singing like little tunes, he's like, Jesus, Jesus, what's taking so long? My boys are in trouble. I better make it before dawn. As it's tiny little tunes like that, he sings to himself. He's like, swear to God, swear to God. These idiots get into trouble, gonna bang their heads with a shovel. He's just like as he laughs at that last one, he's like, these guys are idiots. But they're trying to stick up for their community, so he'll suck it up for this once. As he walks down, actually, he comes across Sue after getting off the train. He's like, Sue? He's like, Midoriya. Or not Midoriya, he's like, Izuku. He's like, As she's like, what are you doing here? He's like, well, apparently a couple of my boys in their neighborhood, they got like a little gang of kids running around picking on people and taking some stuff that ain't theirs. I'm going to go sort it out. It's like, shouldn't you leave that to the heroes? They tried that. Didn't work out. Apparently heroes don't see them as big enough as a threat or as villains yet until they actually commit a crime, not just, small little things. It's beneath the heroes, None of them care about bullying or any of that shit. She's like, well, good luck, Midoriya. It's like, oh yeah, and by the way, are you wanting to be a hero, by the way? She's like, yeah, why do you ask? He's like, well, I'm just curious. I was wanting to be one too. Do you got any tips or anything? She's like, well, there's these little hero tests thing that I'm doing. He's like, can I get the information on that? She's like, sure. But why? Well, I just told you. But she's like, from what I can tell, you probably wouldn't need it. What else are you up to? He's like, as he looks around, he's like, some of the boys I hang around with, the boys, they're like, she's like, yeah, a few of them. She's like, well, I'll be honest with you, a few of them, they're not that bad of a kids. They just grow up in a rough place. I think I could get them on the right path. This whole delinquent business, they just do it because no one else agrees with them or knows how to interact with them. Sure, they're crass and sometimes they're a bit of a hard-headed, but overall they're good kids. She's like, you're talking about as if you're an adult. He's like, well, sorry, have to grow up fast. She's like, I know what that means. He's like, yeah. Well, let's continue. Sorry for bothering you, Sue, and do you have my number or anything like that? She's like, no. It's like, hey, could you, as they exchange numbers, so that way they can contact each other, and she'll contact him more information on the whole hero mock test stuff. Because Bakugo did that as well. As Deku says, alright, as he's cracking his neck, he's like, let's see what I'm dealing with. As he's walking down the street, a hero actually stops him, like, hey buddy, where are you going? As Deku just looks down at him, as he flips out over his hood, he's like, going to actually hang out with a couple of friends. They need help moving some stuff. As Deku scratches his face, he's like, yeah, no idea how long I've been up. He's like, as the hero takes a step back from how Deku's speaking, as like I said, he has toned down the gravelly, animalistic sounding voice. He's just sounding a bit more normal. He's like, oh, is that so? He's like, yep. Now, if you excuse me, as he goes push past the hero's like, hang on, buddy, hang on. There's a little bit of things I need to talk to you about. As Deku's just like, why is it always these kind of guys? Why is it always these kind of guys? She's like, what is it, sir? As it's just like, got an ID on you? His Deku's just like, I'm not dealing with this. As he just hands it to him, he's like, okay. High schooler? Wait, what? And he's like, yeah. I'm pretty big, I know. Thanks to my quirk. He's like, yeah, you know, it's crocodile, right? He's like, yep. He's like, how big are you gonna get? I don't know. As if I remember, crocodiles keep growing until they die. So, yeah. As Deku's like, apparently crocs grow until they die. So, with how long I live, and if I have the longevity of a crocodile, I'll be around quite big and around for a long while. Deku, as the guy's like, as he's like, sorry for bothering you, Izuku, Daniels. He's like, As he walks past him, as the guy's like, oh shoot, that was terrifying. Oh, thank God he didn't murder me. Deku thinks the guy doesn't even have the decency to try and whisper it. He's double force. He's like, alright, now up to this. As he gets to the place as the guy's like, oh, there you are, boss. It's like, what's the problem, Kevin? It's just like, So as then he hears like, well, what is this? As let's say this group that's around Deku is Kevin, Grundy, Bane, and Manbat. As I'll try to think of a new name for Kevin or find a villain Batman villain that works for him. As like, looks like we got a couple of, looks like you got a freak with you. It's like Kevin's like, Deku holds his hand. He's like, I'll deal with this. And that's where I'm going to be ending this one off at. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Hope you guys continue to enjoy this. Hope you guys have a nice, and I hope you guys have a nice day, nice night.